Here we go.
Here we go.
All right.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us on this call about voting and why every vote counts, and gives you an opportunity to learn about GoVoteMiami. So we're really pleased to have the Women's Club allow us to present to its membership. Want to go to the next slide, Christina? Okay, so today we're going to talk about GoVoteMiami, which is a very unique organization. And we're going to talk about some of the problems involved with voting, some of the solutions to those problems. We'll talk specifically about vote by mail and why every vote counts. So I'd like to introduce Christina Bracken, who's the founder and president of GoVoteMiami, and she's going to give our presentation today and introduce herself and take it away.
All right. Well, first, let me thank you, Marlene, for taking the initiative. It's wonderful to be here, and it's great to share what we have collected when it comes to information about voting. And thanks to the Women's Club and all the chapters for inviting us. So I really appreciate that. Like you said, my name is Christina Bracken. I founded GoVoteMiami about 4.5 years ago. The main reason for it was my becoming a U.S. citizen. I became a U.S. citizen in 2014, so not that long ago. And I grew up in Germany. You know, I have dual citizenship now, and I thought, oh, it would be no big deal. You know, you just get a passport, go through the ceremony. And I was utterly overwhelmed by the emotion of feeling like an American. When I went through that, it was just entirely overwhelming and incredible. So it was really very unexpected, and it gave me a new perspective, both knowledge-wise as well as emotionally, to understand, you know, why people stand up and sing the national anthem, for example, which is not something that you usually do when you grow up in Germany. But it was kind of the catapult it catapulted me to know a lot more about the civic education. You know, when you become a citizen, you go through all the questions and whatnot. And then with the elections coming on, it became clear that learning about civic engagement and learning about the mechanics of voting is just the crucial first step to engage and to steer politics from the very local level all the way up to the presidency in the direction that you feel necessary as a citizen. And that was really the beginning. We started just very much with focusing on basic voter registration. When I first started GoVoteMiami, we registered as what's called a third-party voter registration organization with the state of Florida. So we are licensed, we are being monitored, we adhere to very stringent guidelines on what to do and what not to do when it comes to voter registration. And we are, of course, a nonprofit. But we focus on individuals, groups, and organizations to help them with voter registration drives. So if someone had a block party and wanted to do voter registration, we would usually come and provide materials or volunteers. If an organization like Waste Management wanted to do voter registration at one of their company events, we would go. We organized, in 2018, we organized March to be Miami-Dade voter registration months, and we did about 130 events all over Miami-Dade, from the zoo to farmers markets and at books and block parties and in people's houses and at schools and universities. I mean, it was all over the place. As you probably well know, there's plenty of organizations that do focus on voter registration. That led us to a very particular angle of the voter registration, which revolves around the National Voter Registration Act. It's a little piece of legislation that hardly anyone has heard of, and it is probably the most sweeping piece of voting rights legislation after the Voting Rights Act. It mandates that every public agency and office that receives public funding and gives public assistance also has to do voter registration with every core service. So that's a very long list of agencies, starting with libraries, DMVs, all armed forces, all offices with that service people with disabilities, this Department of Children and Family Services, and on and on and on. It's a very long list. And that's basically what we are focusing on now, mostly. We still do regular events, like for example, on Saturday, we're doing an outreach event at Lotus House. They have a block party for their community, and we're providing voter registration. But our main focus is to help public agencies live up to the mandate of the Voter Registration Act. Voter stats. Marlene, do you want to open this to questions before this, or should we just go through the stats?
Well, I thought what we do is each section we would see if there are questions. So I guess, are there any questions about GoVoteMiami? Nope. Okay, then we'll go through the stats, and then at the end of that section, you can ask questions about that.
All right, great. So if you look at voter turnout in the United States, I think currently it ranks about 27 on the list of Western democracies. So it's not a great ranking that the United States has. And if you look at this particular slide, you can see that 62 million Americans voted for Trump, 65 million people voted for Clinton, 92 million people did not vote in the presidential elections. So when you give that some thought, I mean, besides the fact that, you know, the popular vote did not lead to the presidency, I think it shows that 92 million people abdicated their decision to those 130,000 people that did vote. So what happens is that not only do we have a very divided country, but we also have 92 million people that basically didn't share their opinion. And I believe getting voter turnout to be, you know, higher than what we have right now is crucial to the cohesiveness of this country. If 92 million people would have voted, and even if they would have all voted for Trump, the country would now look different than it is looking now. The sense of, okay, this is what the majority wants would be much, much stronger. And right now that's lacking on many levels. Midterms are generally even worse. So 2018, we had 143 million people not voting. So that's a lot of voters that are not participating. And while it's typical that the midterm elections are much lower turnout, it is the worst voter participation in 72 years. So it's quite drastic. Florida voter turnout is a little bit different, but just as bad trend-wise. So you can see midterm elections, we have about a little bit more than 50%. Presidential elections went up. 16 primary was very low, below 30%. The 2012 primary was even lower, just above 10%. And here in Miami-Dade County, we have you know, various local races. So it's not uncommon that for example, county commissioner gets elected by 6% of the voters in that district. So we're talking a few thousand voters in a county of 1.4 million voters. That's and if you think about it, that the decisions are being made on the local level are of course crucial, right? We always look at Washington, the presidential elections, the Senate races for as the important races, but really, I mean, the way your schools are, the way your roads look, the way your parks are staffed, I mean, all of those decisions are being made on the local level. So it's extremely important that we get voter participation in local communities. The whole shebang translates into 25% of all eligible voters not even being registered. So of those numbers that we just looked at of people that have not voted, those are registered voters, right? On top of that, we have another 25% of all eligible people who are not even registered. So we kind of looked at those numbers. So in 2016, if you look at 55% voters that voted, disproportionately affected are, of course, young voters. That's usually students or people that might not live with their parents. They often don't have access to printers or just don't know what to do, don't know how to address an envelope. We have a lot of low-income voters. Again, access is generally the threshold that are all of those people are bumping against. You know, minorities, again, usually bad infrastructure, no access to either polling locations or good mail system or internet, for example. And then, of course, the entire group of disabled persons who struggle with all various issues, whether it's blindness or mobility access. So those people, those groups are always disproportionately affected by lower voting turnout. So we do, of course, want to increase the number of registered voters, and we want to increase the participation in elections. And the way we do that is to show up as many locations as possible. Again, like I explained earlier, we have decided as an organization to focus on the, teach to fish rather than fish or hand out a fish scenario. So we go to organizations and try to teach them and develop programs that allows them to then pass that on to their clients, to their patients, to their customers, depending on what it is. So right now, actually, let me go back. Right now, we're working with various organizations that we'll mention a little later that will give you examples of that. So for this purpose here, we like everyone to think about where their touch points are in their own lives, in their own organizations, in their own professional and personal lives. Where do you run into people? Well, right now you're not running into a lot of people anywhere, but where do you connect with other people in your day-to-day business transactions, in your volunteer efforts, and so on, so that we can start thinking about organizations that can be motivated to share that message and help with that effort. We're going to talk, or this presentation is of course focused on vote by mail. And what you're seeing in front of you is a very impressive statistic for what happens when voters request a vote by mail ballot. So depending on the demographic, we have about a 10 to 26% spread of increase when people request a vote by mail ballot. So if someone who is just a regular voter requests a vote by mail ballot, the likelihood that they will actually vote goes up dramatically. So these percentages that you see here, the difference between the orange and the blue bars show you the difference. So everyone who's blue here is a registered voter, and everyone who's orange here is a registered voter who has applied for a vote by mail ballot and voted. So that's a dramatic increase, and it shows that that is probably the single most effective way to increase voter turnout. And the next question that we get here, no, actually, let me back up. So this slide just shows that how critical it is to get voters to realize how important every single vote is, right? I mean, in Florida, 537 votes decided the 2000 presidential election. So if you think on Key Biscayne, for example, we have 7,000 voters. So a handful of people in my own community could have easily swayed these elections one way or another. So it is quite crucial. What I wanted to say just briefly to this slide, we're going to touch on the big question about, oh, but I want to make sure that my ballot gets counted, right? And once we compare the numbers between the tremendous increase in voter participation to the ballot numbers that don't get counted, I think you will find that it'll be a lot more comfortable for you guys to talk about vote by mail and encourage people to vote by mail. All right, before we go to the deadlines, are there any questions on this particular segment?
I did have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question because I know you're talking about people, but you realize that here in the U.S., someone is elected not necessarily by the popular vote.
Of course.
And
I think we all
know.
Right
we
now.
know. And the reason, and this is one of the reasons which you were saying, I have myself talked to a lot of people, through time, and especially younger voters, people that live near me that were young and some elderly. They think, oh, I don't need to go vote because we know so-and-so is going to win anyway. And so they don't go to vote. Like you say, 500 votes could sway whoever they wanted to vote, And again, another thing is that because we do have a lot of parties that go in at the end. Sometimes a lot of younger people say, oh, I'm gonna go make a point. Although I prefer this person to win, I vote for someone else just to make a point. And all of those things affect, and I don't know if people need to be trained in that matter.
Yes, they do.
Vote, and I know you cannot say don't vote for someone who's an unknown, because that's all right. We can vote for that person.
Absolutely.
But
what you could do though is
realize the impact at the end. And yes. I do know, especially a lot of younger people that I know, not necessarily even from the past election, but from the one where Gore and Bush, with all those hanging ballots and things. There were a lot of people voted for someone else, and then they said, oh, I did not know that was going to affect. We were sure that so-and-so was going to win. Yeah. So I just wanted to make that point, and I don't know if that's that in your organization you can.
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of the core of what we do. We like to say that we focus on the mechanics of voting, and what you just described is very much the misconceptions of how voting works, right? I mean, that's a topic we could talk about for a whole day, but the mechanics of voting are complicated. It is very difficult to get everything communicated, even in an hour-and-a-half meeting. But you're absolutely right. A lot more education is needed.
If I could just chime in, I think that last stat in terms of 537 votes in Dade County changed the vote, the electoral vote for the state of Florida. Is that what I'm hearing? That's a pretty impressive. Exactly. That is a pretty impressive statistic, and I'm going to post it on my Facebook page today.
Yeah. All right.
Are we discussing mail-in votes at this point?
Mail-in votes?
Yeah. I wanted to vote by mail, and I can't get the vote because I moved out of my house and my address, and I'm in an interim place before I move in to a new permanent address in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to miss the deadline to do a vote by mail. Is there any way I can do anything about that?
So let me ask you a question. Did you move outside of your precinct?
Yes.
Did you move outside of your county?
No.
All right. So if you did not move out of your county and you have only an interim address, then I would suggest that you go vote where you have always voted, in the precinct that you have voted.
I can't get a mail-in vote. That's my question. I'm going to have to go in person because I can't get a mail-in vote. I might be able to for November, but I can't.
Why should you not get a mail-in ballot?
Because I can't request it to go. So the mail-in ballot deadline is when? 5 p.m.
Saturday.
Saturday.
7 p.m. Saturday.
So, and
you can request a vote by mail ballot until Saturday, 7 p.m. You can request it online and you can have it be sent to any address that you want within the U.S.
Okay, all right. When I went in online, it sort of didn't quite say that, but I'll go back in and I'll see if I can.
Shirley, let's check it. There shouldn't be any reason why you shouldn't request it. Worst case scenario, you might have to vote in person. I would suggest that you do that then early because the lines are very short.
Exactly. That's what I thought. So yes, but it was just a question. So once I move into my permanent address, then I can request that for the November election.
Correct. And I'm assuming that you have not changed your driver's license or anything like that to your new address. So it shows your old address, correct?
Yes. Everything shows my old address because I'm only in an interim place. And
right. So you should have no problem whatsoever voting in your previous precinct.
No, I know that. I know. But I wanted a mail-in, but obviously I can't have it.
As I said, I think you can, but we'll
figure that out. It's okay. It's okay. I don't want to take everyone's time, but I'll go back in and check.
All right.
Okay. Oh, and I too did the citizenship because I'm from England, and an amazing event.
It is very much.
3,000 people, and it was so personal. It was incredible. So
it is a very
most people don't
unforgettable day.
Absolutely. So we'll do that. Okay.
All right, so we're going to run you really quickly through the deadlines. July 20th was the deadline to register to vote or to update anything on your voter registration. So surely that would, for example, include your change of address.
Right.
That would include a party affiliation, a name change. So that deadline has passed. You have to do that 29 days before any election.
Right.
You still can request a vote by mail ballot until August. So that's Saturday. So obviously that can then only happen online. That has to be requested 10 days before any election. It is a very, very, very tight deadline, especially with all the concerns that people have about mailing ballots. I would recommend that you do that only if you absolutely have to. If you want to vote by mail, get it early, request it early, and make sure that you have the 3 or 4 weeks prior to the election to do it and send it in. Okay. Early voting has already started. So since Monday, you can vote every day from 7 a.m. in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, and on weekends you can vote from 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, every day until August 16th, and all of the 24 early voting locations within Miami-Dade County. And you can also turn in your vote by mail ballot at any early voting location within the county. So you, I think Dolly, was it Dolly that said that she turned it in and it was easy, or I can't remember who it was.
Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia, exactly. So so you can hand on your vote by mail ballot in person, and you can of course vote in person on election day, and you can hand in your vote by mail ballot on election day, but only in 4 locations. So those locations have just been extended by 2. There used to be 2 and now there's 4, which also shows that we really must thank Christina White, our supervisor of elections, for doing a phenomenal job in making sure that our elections are secure and maneuver through this COVID situation as well as we can. The presidential election follow the same deadline roster. So October 5th is the deadline to register or to update your registration. October 24th is the last day you can request a vote by mail ballot. Early voting starts October 19th and goes through the November 1st, and then election day is on the 3rd. If you have a question, if you have a problem with casting your ballot at a early voting location or on election day, call the supervisor of elections. They have over 120 people staffed for election day in the elections office or outsourced to answer questions. So the 305-499-VOTE or 8683 number will get you someone who is going to be knowledgeable about hopefully any question that you have. If there is a contentious issue or if you can't get any answers, then please do use the election protection hotline. They are available in various languages. We have listed 2 here. They're also available for people with disabilities. So that is a number that any voter should have written down somewhere. All right, before we go to the nitty-gritty parts of vote by mail, are there any questions? All right, then I'll move on. So we can say that vote by mail is definitely the safest way to vote in the 2020 elections. It gives you a lot of options and also leaves you a lot of flexibility. To the point that we touched on earlier about voter participation versus uncounted ballots. So in 2016, I'm going to read you some of these numbers because they're very impressive, and for the people who are concerned about ballots not being counted, I think they are changing minds. So in 2016, we had 1,379,248 registered voters in Miami-Dade County. Of those, 70% cast their ballot. So that's almost 1 million people. 353,000 requested a vote by mail ballot, and 310,000 submitted their vote by mail. Of those 310,000 ballots, 4,859 were not counted. So that is a percentage of 1.56% of all submitted ballots. Okay, so let's assume that those ballots were all not counted because the Department of Elections is biased or, you know, mischievous or whatever. That is 1.6% of uncounted votes versus the increase of spread in voter participation of regular voters versus vote by mail voters, which ranges from about 12 to 28%. So in any case, in any demographic, that increased population of voters way outweighs any uncounted ballots that we have here in Miami-Dade County. Now, if you further realize that of those 4,800 ballots, 2,300 did not have a signature on the envelope. So purely voter mistake, so to speak, right? That reduces it to even more. And the signatures that were not matching and did not get cured amounted to 0.04%. So we have a very, very low percentage of votes that actually do not get counted. And I sometimes worry that, you know, our concerns over election security lead us to repeat this narrative of voting by mail not being safe. There is a clear justification for being concerned about voter security, but we must remember that if we look at the facts and the numbers, voting by mail is absolutely the safest way to vote, especially now during COVID. And not only is it the safest way, but it is the way people will turn out at the actual ballot box. So that is the way to go. If you're concerned about voter increase, if you're concerned about voter participation, civic engagement, that is the message that we have to continue to share. As I said, the number one reason why your vote might not be counted is because you might have forgotten to sign the outside of the envelope. Now, there's people say, oh, you know, it needs to be clearer, it needs to be better designed. If you look at the envelope, it is fairly clear that there's a big fat red box that says sign here. If you do forget to sign it, all right, and it gets to the Department of Elections, they will still open it if they're, and reach out to us. So we received your ballot, it's missing the signature, you can cure it with a signature cure affidavit. It's a form that you need to fill out. You can email it, fax it, or mail it, or drop it off in person, and your signature and your vote still be counted. If you don't react to it, then again, you know, they will put you in the bucket where votes go when they are not counted because they're not valid. You can see on the upper left corner here of this envelope, there is contact information. You can help yourself by including your phone number or an email address, or if you feel comfortable, you know, your actual address, to help the Department of Elections reach out to you. On your ballot is only your voter registration number, so it is anonymous. You cannot see who it is. But if you put something on the outside of the envelope that says, okay, well, you know, there's no signature, I can call 786-367-6829, then the chances that you can cure your vote are much higher. One of the things that the Department of Elections did is extend the deadline to cure your vote by 2 days. So you can now do that until 2 days after the election, actually. So if you cure your vote, you have to turn in that form by fax, email, in person, or by mail, not later than 5 p.m. on the second day after the election. So there's a lot of ways that a voter can rectify a mistake if it was made. If you don't feel comfortable putting your vote by mail ballot into the mail, you can drop it off at any early voting location, and on election day there is now 4 locations where you can stick it into an actual vote by mail ballot box. Or you can, you can drop it off in person at the Department of Elections as well. Signature matching, clearly a big concern as well. So when you are not sure what your signature should look like, you're stuck with it right now for the primary. But if you're not sure whether your signature has changed, I highly encourage you all to update your signature for the November 3rd election. That means you take a regular voter registration form, you fill it out, you check the box on the top that says update, you put your signature on it, you take a picture of it so that you remember what it looks like, and you mail it into the Department of Elections. That is the safest way to make sure that you know what your signature should look like. And the Department of Elections recommends that we do that every 4 years, just because, you know, I mean, when you're a young voter, your signature changes. When you're an older voter, your signature changes. It's just safer. Should a signature not match, there is 4 steps that a ballot has to go through before it's even considered to be a non-counted ballot. So it's a very involved process. First, it goes through an automatic signature check. Then there's 3 different levels of people that are all trained to do signature verification. And if it's still not approved, then it goes through to the canvassing board, 3 physical people, usually a combination of election department staff and lawyers, who will then look at the ballot and decide whether it is whether it can be accepted or not. If they decide that it cannot be accepted, you still get the opportunity to send in your cure affidavit. So there's really a lot of ways that the Department of Election is, a lot of steps that the Department of Election is going through to help you and want to make sure that your vote gets counted. So there's a lot of information, I realize that, and there's always more questions. So we'd open it up for questions right now. If you have specific questions, please go ahead. We can also follow up if you have a more personal or you know, unusual question. We can follow it up after the meeting. So go ahead.
So how do I check whether my mail-in vote was actually
Counted?
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
I'm going to show you in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you can track your vote online. So it shows you exactly whether it's been sent out by the Department of Elections, whether you have sent it in, and whether it has been counted and entered into the system.
Okay, you're going to talk about that.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions? Wow, I must be really good.
This is Joyce. I have a question.
Yes.
I was told by somebody else that the signature should match your driver's license, and now you're saying it's the voter registration.
Okay. So you might be aware that since 2018, Florida is now offering voter registration online. If you are registering to vote online, let's say for the first time or after you've moved, what happens is that you have to put in your driver's license or your Florida ID card and your social security number. What then happens is that they pull your signature from the DMV file, and that becomes your signature on record. If you are not registering online, then the signature on the form that you have submitted becomes your signature on record. Now, they will not throw out the previous one and only keep the most recent one. They will keep all of the signatures. So there is a sequential kind of history of how your signature might have changed. And that also helps the canvassing board or the signature verification group to see whether you just had a bad day or whatever, or you bumped your hand, or so the signature on record is potentially your driver's license, but only if you have registered online or at a DMV at one point or a time. Otherwise, your signature is the one that has been on the form that you used to register most recently.
When I went and I took my ballot in, the lady there actually asked me for my driver's license to verify I had my registration card, but I offered it to her and she said, no, I need your driver's license. So she compared it to my driver's license signature.
Yes. So again, they have all of these different signatures on record. The other reason why she asks you for your ID is that you have to show that you are you. So when you go to a polling station, you have to show your ID. They will pull up your voter registration number so that you get the ballot that belongs to you as a voter. In order to prevent fraud, you are being asked to show a state issued photo ID. So it has to have your photo on it and your signature. If you don't have an ID card that shows both your photo and your signature, then you have the option of a various combination of IDs, and we have that on our website as well. There's a long list of IDs that you can use to show that you are you, including your concealed weapon permit, for example. So have a look at it if you have a question, but most people have a driver's license or a Florida ID card, so that will do. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. I
Okay.
got a little confused. So it should match my driver's license, the signature, because I did get a new driver's license recently, because you have to have a special driver's license thing on there for traveling by air. So I would match that versus my voter registration, which exists from hundreds of years ago.
Right. I would suggest that you update your signature, because if you didn't do any updates on your voter registration, then your old signature will still be on the record. But it's good that you have a new driver's license. I mean, that shows that you're keeping up, and they clearly accepted it. So I'm assuming that your signature is not that different from what you had before.
Well, the problem I'm having now is my hands shake a lot. So
Yeah.
writing for me is very difficult.
Yes.
And I'm afraid it won't match, you know, because I can't control my hands as much as I used to.
I'm going to tell you something that sounds pretty funny, but you can just make an X.
Oh.
If you send in your ballot, your signature update, and you put an X on it, and then you want to just sign your ballot the next time with an X, that is perfectly legal.
Oh, really?
Or just make an O, or just do 3 circles, or whatever is easy for you. As long as you sign it the same way you did it on your voter registration form, that is valid.
And I plan to re-register right after the August elections, so that I know the signature that I've submitted.
Right. And again, if you do that, I would highly suggest that you take a picture or make a photocopy so that you have a record of that.
I will make a copy.
Any other questions?
Where do I update my voter registration?
I'm going to show you.
Oh,
I'm going
great.
to show you in the next section, right
Perfect.
after this.
Perfect.
Alrighty. So then let's go through this, and if there's still questions, we can continue to answer them. Before we open up the website, we want to share that there are many ways that we can help other organizations to help register their customers, clients, and patients sometimes. So GoVoteMiami has partnered with a national organization called VoteER. VoteER focuses on healthcare facilities and doctors and hospitals to encourage them to reach out and in their interactions with their patients, to remind them that voting is a big part of civic health. Most hospitals receive substantial amount of public funding. Public funding is directly linked to voter participation and the representation that we have on the local level, on the state level, on the federal level. So it is really important that people understand the connection. It gives them one more motivation on why voting is important. It's not just so that we have, this or that president. It is very important for our local funding, our local infrastructure, and clearly, health resources are crucial for many, many people. So VoteER basically offers a card. They offer some signage. So the doctors have a little lanyard and card with a QR code that anyone with a smartphone can scan, and it'll take them directly to our website so that they can register, update, get information on election dates, on deadlines, on what's a valid ID card, and so on and so on. So it's very localized, it's very easy to access, and it kind of changes really how voter registration and civic engagement shows up in the world. Because if you imagine, if every patient, every time they go into a hospital, every time they see a doctor, at least has a 1 or 2 sentence conversation about whether they're registered or whether they know where to vote or how to find that information, I think it's quite a sea change in the way civic engagement is perceived. Here you see a few visuals of what we do. On the bottom right, you have Lotus House, where we will be again on Saturday, sorry. So if anyone feels the need to volunteer and help register voters from 12:30 to 2, please reach out to me and join me. And on the top left, you see one group of the Miami-Dade Public Library branches. We trained staff in all 50 Miami-Dade public libraries to do effective voter registration, and we basically go to any agency that requests that. In the middle center here, you see myself and Jane Torres. She is our training director and corporate development. So she is a wonderful person and has an incredible background of cross-cultural, cross-ethnic, cross-everything training, and she's done an amazing job. All right, Marlene will walk you through the website and show you.
You want to stop sharing your screen?
Yes.
You went around and looked?
Yeah.
I have one question.
Yes.
Christine, getting in contact with you about Lotus House, how do we do that?
If you have a pen, I can give you my phone number.
Ready?
786-367-6829. Just give me a call after the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to just briefly go over the GoVoteMiami website, which I am thoroughly impressed with. And what they have done is basically linked everything that you need to know and do about voting on one opening page, which is phenomenal. And just to give you an example, if you go to vote by mail, you can request your vote by mail. You can track your ballot status. And you can, I'm not sure what a federal postcard application is.
This is for anyone who lives outside of the United States, either military or expats.
Okay. So anyway, you see it's very, very easy to request your vote by mail. All you have to do is pretty much put in, and then this all goes to the main websites of the county, and you can proceed and request your ballot, your mail-in ballot.
If you do it this way, it literally takes less than a minute to request a vote by mail ballot.
So the election dates and deadlines are here. Just to give you an example of what we just covered in the presentation. The early voting locations and times right here, sample ballots. One of the things we didn't talk about, well, let's talk about track your ballot. So this is really important. If you have done your mail-in ballot, you can just put in your name, your birth date, assure them you're not a robot, and it will show you the steps of your vote by mail. I just followed my ballot for this election through being received and counted. So I'm very pleased that I know my vote was counted. You can also check your voter status. You can download a voter registration form. I think this is what we're talking about with Joyce. You can download the form in English and then print it, fill it out, and what are the options in terms of what, mail it in? This is where your signature would go. Then you
If
make
you need to update your signature, it has to be mailed in. Yeah. Okay.
So then you mail it in, and you will have your new signature that you will know what it is. So there's a number, you can register to vote here. There's a number of tools. You can update your registration, name and address. There's a lot of resources and information that you can get answers to. And I guess my one question, I don't see where it is. Oh, FAQs. A lot of people have been asking me about the individuals that are running, that are about our candidates. And I think you have it on FAQs. Is that true? Yeah, judicial races.
We don't generally talk about candidates. I mean, we're a 501c3, so we are a nonpartisan organization. So you'll hear from us about you know, how it works, where you go, how to do it, who to ask, but we will not talk about candidates or their platforms. The FAQs give you a lot of answers on vote by mail, and we have a whole section about the judicial races. So why do we vote for judges? What's the difference between a county judge and an appellate judge? Why are they nonpartisan? Why can they get elected and then have to be voted on? So, you know, judicial races are very complicated and a little bit counterintuitive in a way. So there's a lot of questions that we have encountered over the years and consolidated here so that it makes a little bit more sense for voters.
Mm-hmm.
If you need candidate information, we highly recommend that you reach out to an organization like Blue Wave Coalition or someone like that, that basically can make recommendations. We don't do that.
Okay, but you can learn about the candidates also from their various, from these organizations as well.
Yeah, all of the judges will basically be, I mean, information on the judges will be discussed on those links, for example. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So essentially, the other thing that the site has is tools for organizations. They'll soon be having a link for health centers and for their new affiliation with Vote ER. But anyway, there's a lot of information you can use. I've used some of these graphics on my Facebook posts and so forth. But essentially, it's a one-stop shop. I'm very impressed with it, and I encourage you all to use it for what your voting needs are. So if you want to.
It's definitely an easy way. If you have been on the Miami Department of Elections website, it's actually a very good, very robust site. It just has so much information that it's sometimes a little bit frustrating to navigate it. So what we have sought to do is basically trying to make it super simple and answer the whatever 10 questions that come up most often in a one-click website. And we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not making you go through, sign up here and do this and whatnot. We're literally just linking you to the right spot on the website.
Any questions?
Oops, I do have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, speak loud.
Muted myself. I pushed and I muted myself. I just wanted to ask if you, because as you were scrolling down, I noticed something, a question that I hadn't even thought about. If you register for online voting, do you have to vote online? Did you have online voting? I mean, mail-in voting. Do you have to vote by mail?
No, you don't have to vote by mail. You can vote in person. If you want to vote in person, we recommend that you bring your vote by mail ballot with you. It is not legally necessary, but in order for, you know, to avoid just any kind of challenge, we recommend it.
So you can request it, because I thought if you requested a ballot by mail to vote online by mail, you then could not go to a site and just vote.
No, that is incorrect. That is entirely incorrect.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure of that. That's one of the reasons when I thought about it like a week ago, I didn't request it because I did not know what to do. So I'll probably be doing the early voting. I'll check those sites.
And, you know,
later. So
that is actually, I'm glad you asked that, because that's one of the reasons why vote by mail is so effective. Once you request it, you get the ballot about 3 to 4 weeks prior to election day. It gives you a long time to sit at your kitchen table, talk it over with your friends, look at platforms of candidates online, read a little bit in the newspapers, so that, you know, you're not standing all of a sudden in your voting booth and you have like this piece of paper in front of you that's pages long, and most people are overwhelmed and don't vote what we call down ballot, right? They check the first one, and then the rest, what's a county commissioner? What's a property appraiser? You know, I have no idea about judges. So vote by mail allows you to do all this with a lot more time in the privacy of your home. And if you then want to just go and vote early, just do that. Just use the vote by mail ballot as your practice piece, basically.
Because this brings to my other question. Actually, right now I'm sitting, you know, just yesterday I was thinking, that's why when I saw this mail that you were here today, I said, oh, gee, this is great. I was thinking, gee, where do I get a, you know, I mean, I know I can go to the site, but I usually like to have a written one so I can look at it and see what's on the ballot. Now, where do I get the ballot?
So there's two ways to get it. When you update your signature the next time on the voter registration.
No, I meant for this election. I know what I need to do for later, but for this election.
Okay, so let me just finish it. So when you update your signature and you fill out the vote by mail, and you fill out your signature in the form, there is a check mark where you say, send me a sample ballot. All right, so when you check that, you get a sample ballot in the mail, or by email. If you want to just look up your sample ballot, you have two ways. You can look up the general ballot on the right here, on the right hand side here that Marlene brought up. So all Democratic candidates will be listed on your Democratic sample ballot. Or you can go to the personal sample ballot and put in your information. It'll bring up your voter profile. It shows that you, actually, Marlene, if you don't mind going through that, putting my name in, that way we can actually show what that looks like.
You're going to share your date of birth? Okay, go ahead.
I mean, why not? Christina Bracken, B-R-A-C-K-E-N, December 1361.
Oh, I cannot.
I had that birthday and I would
don't know
share
what
it.
I did. For some reason, I cannot go back. I cannot see you. Let's see.
All right, so what you see on Marlene's screen right now is basically my name, obviously, my voter registration number.
I can only see me on the screen right now. I don't know why.
You have to hit the view.
View. Let's see.
Instead of speaker, you need to put gallery view, maybe.
I'm trying to see. This never happened to me. So let me see. Go slow.
Lisa Remney, I know you joined the call. Perhaps you have some advice.
No, is there? Okay. No, I find a participant. Maybe I can go to you and maybe that will work.
Okay, if you go up to your right hand upper screen, it says speaker view or it says gallery view.
I'm not seeing that screen. I'm seeing a screen that only has my face on it.
Okay,
okay,
press
at the top of
escape.
okay, here's how to undo that.
Escape.
At the top of your screen, you'll see 3 little dots.
Okay, 3 little.
See them 3 blue dots in a blue screen with 3 white dots?
Nope. That's what I'm saying. I've never seen anything. I have my face and then participants on the side, the names.
Try hitting escape.
Escape, okay. Maybe I'll get out of Zoom, but I'll go in again. Okay. Nope, not working.
Maybe you should go out and come back in. Maybe that will work.
Let me see if I do something else here. Okay, video. Okay, Zoom.
Yeah, we can do this
Go ahead.
offline so we don't hold up the.
Yeah, I don't need you to hold off. It's just that I go through it.
We're already at the 1 hour point, so we need to kind of wrap it up. And I can go over it with you personally, or Christina can.
Oh, I can do that as well. So
go ahead,
Marlene, if you take the little gray bar next to the blue bars, the vertical gray bar, and slide that down. So that gray bar basically shows you all of the information about you as a voter. So you can see voter status a little bit up. You are scheduled to receive a mail ballot for this election. That means that you are registered, or I am registered to vote by mail. And if you slide it down, you can see view sample ballot. If you click on that, this is the PDF of the actual ballot that you will receive in your voter's booth. On the right hand of your screen, there's a little arrow. You can download it. You can print it. You can do whatever you want with it. But that is what you will see when you walk into the voting booth, or what they will mail you if you have a vote by mail ballot on record. On the very right side, yeah, exactly. And this little blue arrow shows you the status of your ballot. So I requested a vote by mail ballot is number 1. They send it out is number 2. You can see they have not received it yet from me because I haven't mailed it in yet. Once it is processed and entered into the system, number 4 will also show up blue, and show you that it has actually been tallied. Now, a lot of people say, oh, but they're just gonna highlight this blue, and it doesn't mean that I'm actually counted. But votes are actually public record. Of course, not who you voted for, but that you voted, you can actually look up. So it will be listed whether you voted and how you voted, as in, did you vote in person? Did you vote early? Did you vote by mail? So there is a record of your voting process and method online, which again proves that you have voted and participated, and that your vote was counted. If that part is missing, then you have to worry. And here it shows you, where your polling location is on election day. It shows you the early voting times. It really has everything that you need to know where you need to go during the voting times of any election. And as you can see on the right-hand side, there's the phone numbers for the Department of Elections again. So I think the information is there.
It's great. It's really phenomenal.
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt.
All the way on the right. Marlene, all the way on the right. The most right upper window. If you close that again, then it'll, yeah, a little further left. No.
Sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
My question is, I'm sorry if it's been spoken about it already. Unfortunately, I'm late to the game here. But if you have ordered a vote by mail ballot, and you decide to go and vote instead,
yeah, no
that's
problem.
Fine?
Yeah.
Okay. It's only to get the
we recommend that you bring your vote by mail ballot with you. It is not legally necessary, but we recommend it just so that you don't have to answer questions of poll workers that might not be totally on the up and up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions about the website? If not, we'll go ahead and finish up with some call to actions. Christina, you want to pull up?
1 second, actually. You had a question, Marlene, about why women vote less than men and what we can do about it. It was one of the questions that you had submitted to me. I'm very happy to report to you that women actually vote more than men, so we don't have to do anything about it. So in the last presidential election, 2016, about 100,000 women voted, more women voted than men in Miami-Dade County. And this is probably the only area where Black and brown people and other underserved communities usually shine. So if you are, in a, let's say, an African-American neighborhood, the likelihood that you have a lot more women voting is very high, simply because the other half is in jail.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen if you want to pull up the PowerPoint. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and I have to share my screen again now, right? All right. All righty. Oh, why is it not working? Is this yours, or is this mine? Hold on.
Yours. Just click it and page down. No?
No.
Well, I can bring it up. Because we are at the end. Actually, the only thing we have now is our Q&As and call to action. So let me, there we go. So are there any other questions that we haven't answered? Nope.
And I'm aware that there's a lot of funky details when it comes to voting, and sometimes questions just pop into your mind later on. So you can always email me at info@GoVoteMiami.org. If you have a question, I would encourage you to look at the website. Most answers are to be found on that. But again, I'm happy to reach out to you, or if you reach out to me, to give you the answers or find them.
Okay, so our last
Marlene, you must have done really,
act
now.
now.
Really well. No one has questions. Very
Okay,
good.
so we've had a lot of questions, but anyone can email me and I can put you in touch with Christina as well.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons I got involved in this is I really wanted to make a difference in getting more people to vote. So I encourage all of you to think about how you can do that as well. Obviously, I know all of you on this call are active voters. So think about how you can connect groups, organizations. I've been able to talk and have Christina come on a call with the Chamber Women's Group a week and a half ago, and went really well. People had questions. So really think about that. Think about any public agency or hospital or doctor that you have connections to, or large practice group, and try to help us get connected so they're registering people. And volunteer. You can organize your own voter registration event, or you can help Christina at some of the other events that are coming up. So we encourage you to think about how you can act and enroll more voters and have more people's votes count.
Yeah. Well, Marlene, thank you very much. I mean, I think this was a great way to get more information out into the world. To just emphasize your call to action once more, there are many ways to get involved or do something. For some people, it's a little bit overwhelming, so I'd like to share that everyone can do something. It doesn't have to be, that you're becoming an activist or stand in the hot sun for hours and hours and hours. But there's usually something that you haven't thought about that you can do and that I encourage you to do. So for example, you can share the website as an easy way to find answers. You can help us broaden our audience on social media. Even if you're not, on social media generally, you can maybe just share a photo or information or something like that, or tell someone about it. We do a lot of events, so we're always looking for volunteers that can show up for an hour or two to help getting people registered or talked about elections. And we do training. So on our website, there's a training video, actually several training videos about how to fill out a form, how an organization can handle voter registration. So there's lots of resources that you can point to, and it doesn't have to be a big connection. Think about your soon-to-be 18-year-old university student, or think about the Rotary Club, or your book club, or your family reunion on Zoom now. There's a lot of different opportunities where we reach out to people, where we can at least mention the fact that you just went through this presentation. This was really interesting, and I found this website that is really helpful, and great way to get involved. So I hope you can take this to heart. I think from your own questions, you can see that there is a lot to be learned. It is a difficult thing to do, vote and be informed. And we need to be as proactive and as forgiving to the people, you know, that might not have all the information, because it is complex.
Thank you, Christina, for presenting today, and thanks everyone for attending. And we'll have a copy of this recording provided to the Women's Club. They can put on their website and publicize it as well.
Wonderful.
So
Well, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you very much, Marlene, for organizing it and being so fierce in your activism, and very persuasive. Thanks for your time, everybody, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your Thursday, and go vote.
Thank you, Christina. A very good job. Excellent.
Thank you so much, Marlene and Christian.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you both.
Okay. Be well, everyone.
Thanks, Marlene. Bye-bye.
Bye.